Hello, welcome back to the FloTrack podcast, FloTrack at gmail.com. I'm Kevin. He's Lincoln. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and on the website, flotrack.org/FloTrack podcast. Hello and good morning, Lincoln. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Kevin. How are you?
Making it, getting by, getting through.
Mm-hmm.
Very excited, though, to talk about these Bowerman Track Club intra-squad meet results. They lived up to the billing.
Mm-hmm.
We previewed him. We made predictions. It was like it wasn't even 2020 again. And the race happened, and I think it exceeded pretty much everybody's expectations.
Unlike a lot of sequels, this one was definitely better than its predecessor. This was the Portland Inter Squad 2. We all were familiar with the Portland Inter Squad 1. I mean, who could forget Elise Cranny's performance and Grant Fisher and Sean McGordy's performance? But those times from
Right.
the first one were blown out of the water with a couple seasons best, Kevin. I mean, I think that's all we can say about them. Just some seasonal best.
Some world leads, perhaps.
Yeah,
Would you like a world lead?
yeah.
Look, we broke it down on the when we got the entries, or when we knew that Schweizer and Houlihan were going to go for it. To me, I thought there were so many reasons why the American record would be broken. There's so many reasons why Shelby in particular would be able to go under 14:30 and become the first American woman to do that. But I have to admit, I did not see 14:23. And the lesson I'm now taking from these things is take what you think is going to happen and then drop about 10 seconds from it.
Yeah.
And that's the result, basically.
Yeah. I'll take my crow with a side of coffee. I thought that 14:34 was going to be more of an impediment than it truthfully was. I should have known better. I think your point that Shelby was 2 years more fitter and clearly had run spectacular times in between in the 1500 and the 5000 should have been a sign. And we all know Karissa Schweizer is just, her game has just been increasing with every single race she runs. I should have known, but you said sub 14:30, and I thought, God, that seems like a step too far. Turns out she was closer to running sub 14:20 than she was to breaking 14:30. Again, having the full team out there on the women's side, 70s, 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 70s consistently. And then you just let Shelby Houlihan go to work. She took over, didn't mess around, I think after allowing Schweizer to pass her, or at least having that happen to her at the Boston indoor meet, it seemed like her strategy was Schweizer can never go past me, and it worked well. And then she had the speed necessary to get under. But Schweizer at 14:26, that's not a bad second place performance. That's like, it's just not lost in this. You want to forget how much better she is. And I wrote in just the recap, Houlihan probably won't run the 5,000 at the Olympics just because of the schedule, but you have a pretty good replacement already there on the Bowerman Track Club with somebody who can run 14:26. That's not even your best 5,000 meter runner. So it's just another banner day for this team.
Yeah, and the team is stronger than it was 2 years ago too. Shelby, yes, is better, but you have Elise Cranny there who bridges the gap a bit from the 3,000 meter rabbiting job, which I think Quigley took him through about 3,000, if I'm not mistaken, or Frericks. And Cranny did that last little bit, and then Houlihan had to do the last 1,400 by herself. But just in what other scenario, in what other race, Europe or otherwise, are you going to get a 14:48 woman to be a rabbit? It's not going to happen, right? And where else are you going to get one of the best steeplers in the world and another one of the best steeplers in the world in Frericks and Quigley to serve as pacers for this attempt? The team has just gotten so good. So the stars at the very, very top of this given event are going to reap even more benefits from it, and that being Schweizer and Houlihan. Houlihan also in 2018 didn't have Schweizer on her. And you're right. Shelby almost ran this like an indoor race of just like with 600 to go. It was pretty cool because Schweizer went wide and Shelby's like, nope. And then she tried to do it again. And she said no. And even though she wasn't getting the benefit of drafting, just having her there, I think really helped Shelby as she cut down what she went 68, 65, 61, basically
Mm-hmm.
that last 1200. I think a lot of that was Schweizer was breathing down her neck. And also she had to do no work really up until that point. The
Yeah.
pacing was absolutely perfect. And credit to
Right.
Schweizer, those for hanging in until the last lap. And remember, it wasn't that many months ago when you and I were in Doha interviewing Karissa Schweizer after she set a massive PR to get into the 1440s in Doha. And you're like, well, that was a dream race. I don't know if she'll ever do
Yeah.
that again. And now she's breaking it by 20 seconds.
Yeah, she's over 100 meters better over for
Yeah.
5,000. That's crazy. I just enjoy watching the competitiveness these two women bring when they get together, even for a race. It's weird because it's like both high stakes because the time that's at stake, but also at low stakes because ultimately, like, it doesn't really matter who wins. I mean, there's no medals on the line, there's no teams to be
Mm-hmm.
made here, but records are obviously important. But seeing Schweizer make that play, knowing that's her best move with from such a long way out. I mean, she could have been content to just hang on and just say, well, if I get second place, is that really that bad? People, even though I beat Shelby Houlihan in February, most people are expecting Shelby Houlihan to win. And she could have just said, I'm just going to hang on and run a ridiculously fast time and be the second fastest American ever.
Yeah.
No, she was not content for that. She tried to go past with, few laps to go. And that was a bold play. And I mean, I guess it could have jeopardized her race. She could have completely fell apart and she didn't. But just that like she's like the first woman, it feels like, in the US, and I don't want to disrespect Jenny Simpson's name. Obviously, she's not terrified of Shelby Houlihan, but there is kind of this reverence that Shelby Houlihan carries, where it seems like other female athletes in the U.S. are scared to challenge her, and Schweizer doesn't have that fear. It seems like, and maybe that's a part of beating her and training with her every day. But she's not afraid to just say, well, I know you have a great kick, so I'm going to try to run it out of you. And it did work that one time. Didn't work here, but um, Schweizer is a special talent on her own, even inside the shadow of Shelby Houlihan.
Yeah. The audacity of that move said a
Mm-hmm.
lot about Schweizer's confidence. This is her
Mm-hmm.
third summer running professionally. That first summer she was fresh off her last year in college, so her really her older and this is the performance that she's to. These are the types of performances that she's able to turn in. You'd think that she would defer, right? You'd think that there would be
Yeah.
some fear factor here. And there's so many reasons, as you mentioned, to just be like, okay, keep it together and I can break 1430. Keep it together and I can break
Mm-hmm.
1430. She's like, no, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for the
Yeah.
win. I think that bodes so well for her chances medal wise, because if you can
Mm-hmm.
go toe to toe with Shelby Houlihan in a
Yep.
race, are you really going to be intimidated by anybody else you see on the Diamond League circuit? I don't think so. Why would you
Yeah.
be?
Yeah. And closing in 60, I don't want to make this all about Schweizer. It's just just knowing that she's probably going to be the face of the 5,000 because Shelby's interests are going to be in the 1,500. She closed in 63 and got dusted. I mean, that is just a sign of Houlihan's greatness. I mean, I think she closed in a faster last lap, that's Schweizer, than Lopez Lamong did. And Lopez Lamong ran 12:58. Like, that's ridiculous how well both those women closed, and off of such a ambitious and obviously record breaking pace. These are the best two runners in the United States right now for the women. And it's cool that they're on the same team, and it's cool that they don't avoid each other. It's an enjoyable, especially right now, having these two go at it again. I don't know what the rest of the season will hold. Will they chase? I mean, I don't know how it could happen to where Shelby could chase the 1,500 American record because it's so fast. That would seem like a tough one to crack, but
Yeah.
possibilities seem endless. I mean, could they? I know it's not Houlihan's bread and butter. Could they go after the 10,000 meter record? I mean, there's just so much left to be done here in this season. And you were talking about yesterday, this season seems built for the Bowerman Track Clubs, seemingly because they don't have to leave Portland and they get to can control all the controllables in this kind of busted season, and they're thriving in it.
8:25 is the American record outdoors in the 3,000. If I'm looking at that right.
That's like a dumb one to chase. You might as well give them that because Schweizer already has that mark from. I mean, she's the fastest American over 3K. Period. She's already run faster, I think, than the outdoor record. So go for.
Yeah, but
I don't know. What else do you go
I'm
for?
saying,
Do you go?
well, you got 2 more meets, right? You got 2 more meets.
Yeah.
You have Portland
Yeah.
Inter Squad 3, and you got Portland Inter Squad 4, I believe, is what they're going.
Yeah.
Or the last one, the Empire Strikes Back. I don't remember. Maybe it's Phantom Menace, something like
They
that.
need to start naming them after, like, similarly to Fast and Furious. So Portland Inter Squad 4, think Portland Speed in Portland, or Portland's fastest, or something like that.
Houlihan Drift, something like that.
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly. Yeah.
I think. Look, I could smell this 5,000 record attempt coming. I think there's going to be a 3,000. I think they're just going to knock it out. I think they're going to try to go under like 820 or something ridiculous, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's absolutely possible.
Coco's run 820 flat, and Sifan Hassan has run 818. So
yeah, blow those
why
out
not?
of the water even. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then everybody else. Then the top 5 times all come from Beijing in 1993. Then it's Sifan Hassan at 818. Then another Beijing 1993 time. Then it's Coco.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's Gaudet. So there's really only 3 contemporaries up there. 4 if you want to count Obiri, who's right at 820. But that seems to be a good mark for them to chase. You seem very confident that she's going to run the 1500 at the Olympics. I think in terms of best medal, I think it just depends on what Sifan Hassan decides to do. Because I think if you take Sifan Hassan out of the 5,000, I think Houlihan has just as good a chance at winning that as she does the 1500.
Wow. That's a good point. The 5,000 would seem to be, I mean, like, it's almost arguably her better distance just because she closes so well. And when you compare it to the competition, I mean, I don't think Obiri can close as well as her in a 5,000. She doesn't have that raw speed. And she's the 2-time reigning world champion. That's a good question. I guess I was assuming because that's the distance she competes in the Diamond League, and that's what she ran in the World Championships. I guess I thought that was the case, but I suppose I should leave open the possibility that she'll run the 5K. I don't know. I mean, I just think that running 354 and then finishing 4th is going to make her hungry to not just go away from that distance. But I guess we shall see.
Yeah, I just think a lot of it. You have one person who lords over both of the events, over basically all the distance events, right? Regardless of whatever she decides to do. And I think you take her out of the mix and it's Houlihan. It'd be one thing if she's her PR still at 1434, right? Or her PR is in 1440 range. Like we've seen that before. And then that's tough because then you get into the world championships and the women that you're competing against, like last year, right? I mean, there's always that fast 5,000 on the Diamond League circuit. It seems like where a bunch of people run low 1420s. But now she's one of those people who's run a low 1420. So how are you going to beat Shelby Houlihan? What's the path to beating Shelby Houlihan in the 5,000? You can't go slow. That would be a recipe for disaster if you're trying to beat her. You can't go hard from the gun because now she has a 1423 personal best. You can do that long wind up thing, but that's kind of what she did here, right? When you go 68, 65, 61, that replicates a lot of championship races where maybe they weren't running 70s in the first half of the race. Maybe they're running 74s or 75s, but still she's able to get down to 61 pace. There's not a lot of ways to beat her in a 5,000. Also not a lot of ways to beat her in the 1,500 either, but the 1,500 just introduces obviously a lot more variables, and there's obviously people with really good closing speed there as well too. I mean, it's a good position to be in. It's a good problem to have with both of these. I just think when you're talking about, hey, my PR now is low 1420s, the sky is the limit for what she can do in that event in a championship setting with her kick.
Yeah, the issue you run up against in both events, and her speed should be able to trump this, but is the experience, because in the 1500 you have Hassan, a world champion, you have Faith Kipyegon, a world champion, and you have other women that have just accomplished more as far as the podium, and you have the same thing in the 5K. If Hassan is there, you have Obiri, the two-time defending world champion. You have Hassan, who would be the favorite if she came into that event. So that's the only thing. I think both. I almost wonder if it comes down to a prestige thing, like the 1500 is winning that would be a bigger deal. I mean, winning a medal of any kind. I don't think she's maybe going to look at it necessarily as which one's a better chance to medal. It's which one's a better chance to get gold. And
well, what about
I think
history
it's
too, though?
toss.
In the 5, she could be, if she medals, she'd be the first one. And then gold obviously would be an entirely bigger step up. But I'm not ruling it out. I think she'll run both at the trials, and then they'll make the decision later on.
Because the schedule, right? You can't. I always forget. You're the schedule master.
Yeah, I am the schedule master. Thank you for referring to me as such. I had some notes on this pulled up. Let me see if I can do that without completely just destroying my internet connection here. Because Gordon and I were going to do a couple weeks ago now. Maybe it was a week ago. Who knows? I've lost track of time. But at some point, Gordon and I were going to do a podcast on predicting the trials finishes a year out, right? And then news came up, and then we didn't actually do it. So, but in those notes, I wrote there about what is possible in terms of doubles. Because I was also looking at the 400 hurdles double. I was really going outside the box, Lincoln. You'd appreciate that and see how possible that was. And now I'm not able to find this document. Fine. There's overlap basically. Let me give one more shot. July 3rd. Was it going to be July 3rd? Was that when I was going to do it? Let's say yes. Okay, I found it. Here we go. So, women's. You want to know about the 5,000? Is that correct?
Well, I just want to know the relative to the 1500.
Yeah. So what did I write on here? Oh, it overlaps at the Olympics. Yes. Sorry, I don't have the exact days. That was anticlimactic. But yes, it overlaps. I think you have the 1500 in the first half, and then the 5,000 in the second half, because I think the women's 10K goes first at the Olympics. So it's a situation where you'd have to run. Remember in Doha, weren't the 1500 and 5,000 finals on the same day, like 10 minutes apart or something?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Oh wait, hold on. I stand corrected. Let me just read this to you. You want me to read this to you? We have a whole hour, right?
Yeah.
People like this stuff. Yeah, okay. Day one. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. It's July 31st. You're in Tokyo, Lincoln. Hopefully. Day one in the evening, you have the 5,000 round one for the women. So women's 5,000 on that first day. Day two, you got nothing. Day three, August 2nd. You still got nothing. Day four, cool. August 3rd, day 4, you have. Oh yeah, never mind. This is not possible. Final. No, but in the morning you have 1,500 round one in the morning, and then you have 5K final at night. Yeah. Okay.
Well, does the fact that it's I was going to say the fact that it's not possible, doesn't that hint that Hassan's going to do the 1510 double again, and so
or she do the 510 though too.
Oh, right. Sorry. I just feel like you run 351, you have to run the 1500 again. Yeah, I guess that's true. It's all dependent on excuse me, what Hassan's going to do. And if we remember going back, she played her cards very intelligently. We got to Doha last fall and we still didn't know what double Hassan was going to do. So she holds that tightly to get that competitive advantage. Houlihan will qualify for both in the trials, and then we'll find out. But it's definitely after this latest performance, it's an argument to be had which event she's better suited for. And I think it comes down to who else is in the race, but it's not like she's missing on any endurance or anything like that. Like she's she's there. I just wonder, having come so close in the 1500, if that would be a tough one to let go of.
Yeah, and when you're talking about how she's going to spend the rest of the summer, all these steeplers are doing a lot of work, but they're not able to get anybody to pace them because they're gonna have to go over
Yeah.
barriers. I think maybe you got to do Frericks and Quigley a solid and just learn to jump over some barriers and
Oh,
then
geez.
rabbit them. I mean, or you could
I
just
would
run
love
around
to
them, I
see
guess.
I would. I don't think that counts. I would love to see Shelby Houlihan in a steeple. We always say that, but that never seems to work. I'd love to see Paul Chalimo in a steeple, and it's just, they're just like, no, I'm not doing that. It takes a certain
Yeah.
athlete that is a little crazy, I think, to want to go for it. So, yeah, I don't know if they'll get that pace job. I'd love to see her try to pace and then realize, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought, and finish it and
Yeah.
run 8:57 or something.
Yeah, barriers aren't that high. I feel bad because like on the men's side of things, you got Jager out there doing all that work too, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
people got to pace him. So let's talk about that men's 5,000. It's a good week when a man running in the 1240s is mentioned second here. Uh,
Yeah.
what a run! What a run for
Mm.
Ahmed. He also got some good pacing early on in this race, but then had to do the long drive for home as well. Closed the last mile under 4 minutes, 3:57,
Yeah.
3:58 or so. Breaks his Canadian record, breaks the North American record, of which I know
Keep
you
lifting
follow
them. Mhm.
extremely close. Yeah, stadium record. Take that, Jesuit High
Mhm.
School class of 2023. You guys are done for. Uh,
Yeah.
Lamong held on. Lamong seemed like he was about 300 meters behind, but Mohamed was going so fast that Lamong still
Um,
ran 12:58. And
yeah.
I saw a stat. I guess Schumacher has now coached 5 men under 13 with Lamong.
I have to assume Lopez Lamong is the only person in history to close the last 800 meters of a sub 13 race in 2:04. You said he was hanging on. He was hanging on for dear life because he got put in the blender by Mohamed, who somehow went through the first 3,000 meters in 7:46 and said, "That's a bit slow for me. I'm gonna ratchet this down all the way and make sure we're in this overall efforts in the 4:0s pace." Listen, we knew he was really, really good by virtue of getting bronze and kind of quietly being one of the most underrated distance runners in the world, I think, for the last several years. I did not think he was 12:47 good. I don't think anyone did. Maybe Schumacher and his teammates and Ahmed did, but uh, you know,
Yeah.
where does this go? You almost need to fly in the Ethiopians if it was safe, and put on a Diamond League type meet at the Jesuit high school and get, if Kajelka's still around, because the guy seemingly could have gone fast. I mean, he could have run like 12:42 or something. You would think. Now maybe it was perfect for him, but and it, he just allowed him to show his speed at the end. But no, I did not see anyone running in the 1240s. And even after a guy who won a bronze medal, I did not fully appreciate his skill set and did not know that he was going to put himself as one of the best 5K runners in history in a lowly time trial. I've never seen something like this, fastest ever in U.S. soil. And all of a sudden, you've
Mm.
really got to consider, even after his bronze medal, I don't think we were like, nah, Mohamed could be the Olympic champion in the 5K. I don't think I really thought that. I thought, oh, good. This is his career highlight. That's great. He's whatever he was last summer, 28, 29. This will probably be his high point. No, I mean, this is a guy who's got a very good shot at winning gold in Tokyo. Now, I know people run in the 1240s all the time and not reach the pinnacle or anything, but the way he closed that was somebody who's going to be tough to beat if he stays on this form going through the next year.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned it as a time trial, like it's that strange, but what more evidence do you need that these are fast racing opportunities? Like, I get that
Mm-hmm.
there was no one there still those last 3 laps, right? He had to do those pretty much by himself. But at that point, if you're in rhythm, right,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and you've had the benefit of the previous 9.5 laps shutting off your mind and just going, if it's your day, it's your day. Could he have gone a little quicker? Sure, he could have, but I mean, these things are set up perfectly, and I'm sure he knew
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. I'm sure he knew exactly how long he was getting pacers. So he was able to prepare mentally for, okay, I just got to go these last 3 laps. I mean, they've probably, I don't know if he had the specific splits worked out, but he had some idea of how this thing was going to go. 12:47 though is surprising. You watched this live. I went to bed because I'm old. I'm older than you.
Mm-hmm.
I texted you before I went to bed or something, and I was like, well, good luck watching the race. I'm excited for the Mark Scott 12:40 run tonight. Just something like,
Yeah.
Just throwing something like completely ridiculous out there.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mark Scott didn't run 12:40, but my point being that when I woke
you
up and I saw the time, but then you see the time, you're like, okay. Okay, Mohamed ran 12:47. All right, I can believe that. He's a really good runner, and everybody's running fast right now in that group.
Absolutely, yeah. And I kind of thought he would beat Lopez. I didn't think to that degree, but I don't think we've gotten to fully appreciate him as much as some of the other athletes on this team. One, because we think back last summer, he paced up to whatever it was, 4,600 meters for the Kincaid thing. And then also for the fact that he's not American. So here we appreciate him, and, we marvel at his career at Wisconsin and that he medaled, but, he's not an American. So American fans are going to not obviously, I don't know, cheer for him as heavily as they would. But this guy is gotten to a point where he's positioning himself to, like I said, to be a gold medal threat, and it kind of happened right under our noses, and it's been fascinating to watch. I almost wonder with him, we talk about next performances. Is this it for his 5,000? I mean, I don't want to say this. In all likelihood, this was a fully maximized performance, and this is to the 10th of a second how fast he can run in a 5K right now. But you do that and you think, you get a little greedy and you're like, okay, let's go out in 7:44 and see if we can close even faster. If we get, I don't know who else. I mean, there's no one else in the United States currently, unless Kajelka is fit and still in the US, who could hang with him. But it's like, God, we're 10 seconds away from the world record. You get that in your head. And I know 10 seconds is still a lot. 10 seconds is still a lot, but when you close in 1:56, you feel like, there's a little bit. You want to go again. You want to try it. And the Bekele's right there. You get that carrot in front of you. Can the Portland Inter Squad 4 bring a 5K world record? That's all I'm wanting to know.
You went farther than I thought you were going to go with that. I thought you were going to say something like, can he go, I don't know, 12:43 or something like that. You went all the way down to the mark. To the GOAT right there with Bekele.
Just go for it. I mean, like, what is he's reaching to the point. He's like, you blow up and you run 12:55. I mean, like,
just stop and turn the cameras off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, man, that didn't
just go for it.
I meant to run a 3K this whole time. That's all it was a 3K.
Just go for it. That's how good he is right now. Yeah.
When is Portland Inter Squad 4?
Isn't it? I think it's at the end of the month, maybe all the way to the 31st, something like that.
I mean, look, what you're saying actually, I mean, it's crazy what you're saying, right? He already took a huge chunk of time off of his personal best. So then you're asking him to take another huge chunk off the time of a personal best. But if you're like, why not? You're right. Like, there's literally no downside. Now, I know this group is famously cautious, which is what's making this summer so interesting with how they approach it, but when else is he going to be in this shape with this opportunity? And every other time in his career, probably something's going to pop up or prevent him from getting this opportunity. Why not? Why not? Just to see, just to see what else is there.
And if we remember 2 years ago, I famously wrote a genius article that said, what happened to all the sub 13 5Ks? And then like 5 days later, a bunch of people ran in the 12:40s. But I kind of thought, these athletes get together in the Diamond League and they tend to, from 3K to 4K, start looking around and say, who's going to take it? Maybe these time trial type situations that we rarely see, and now we're only seeing en masse because of the circumstances, maybe this is the perfect time to go after a really, really fast time. Now, he's already run really, really fast. But when you're 10th best in the world, the 10th fastest man all time, maybe you think I'd like to be top 5, and then you get top 5 and you think, I mean, this may be it. Like running 12:47, regardless how good you are, it takes a lot out of you, and he's probably feeling it right now, and we'll want to recover, and who knows, what else there's going to be left for him. He may be on pace duty for the next 2 inner squads, but I don't know. I would be interested to see if he can go a little bit faster.
Yeah, I just think every world record is a huge leap, right? Every world record is a chance, in most cases it's a big personal best, right? It's a Wade Van Niekerk goes all the way down to 43:03. I know Rudy should knock down the door a couple times, but he goes under one. Well, when he broke it the last time, goes under 141, right? Like it takes a little bit of crazy to do this stuff, and you're right. Like if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. But he might. And here's the thing. Here's what's working. Here's what's. I don't think this is going to happen. Like in terms of, I don't think they'll go for it. But what would be working in their favor of going for it is every time anybody runs fast, really fast, what's the first thing they say? I didn't feel that hard. I think I can go faster.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because when you go, I had a sprint coach tell me this a long time ago. It's because when you go fast, you did everything right, usually, right? Technically. And then of course it felt easy because you did everything right. Now, a little bit different for distance running, but I think distance runners are famous for going back and nitpicking and thinking, oh, this lap, if this was here, and then I could have done this, and then I could have done that. And I actually finished and I felt really good. Or I crossed the line and I wasn't completely spent.
That's adrenaline.
Right. But people don't know that, right? I mean, you could be the lowest level runner all the way up to an Olympic champion. I think when you run a PR, you usually think I could go a little bit better because you're right. That adrenaline's pumping through. So that might be working in his favor of like, oh, man, let me get it one more shot and I'll see what I can do. Worst case scenario, you leave the summer with a 12:47 personal best in the 5,000.
Sure. Exactly. And you don't want to get hurt. But I think back to Bekele's 12:37 world record. I mean, he kind of that was set up for him to run a world record, and he did it all by himself. I mean, he obviously got paced, but this was same thing with Bekele's 10K world record, and he was a special athlete to say the least. I don't know. I just think get him. Let's try to go a couple seconds faster through. I mean, he ran through in 7:46, and then he got fat. I just think there's maybe a couple seconds out there. Now, maybe there's not, maybe closing in 1:56 was exactly the design. And 10 seconds, to be sure, is still a lot of time to cut off. I mean, we even when whoever it was, when Borrega ran 12:43 in 2018, and you're kind of like 6 seconds away. That's pretty close. But knowing that it's so hard to run that fast, you really can only run that fast once every couple years, just the situations. But this is given the situations, but this is a special time. And so maybe you take a couple weeks off, you take 3 weeks off of racing, and maybe Ahmed can tackle this again. It's going to be difficult, and it'd have to be perfectly set up for him. And you'd have to have that want, and of course, Jerry's permission to say, I'm going to try to even go faster.
No, you get Nike to pay Kejelcha a boatload of money if Kejelcha's fit to get him through like 4,200 or something.
Yeah,
that's where. I mean, the fact that we're even entertaining this conversation shows it's a worthy endeavor, right? Because what % chance would you need to attempt a world record to think it's worthwhile, given the risk of injury or whatever else could happen? I mean, this is a career-defining moment here. Right, it's what you dream of growing up: medals and world records. And I mean, if there's even a 1% chance that you could hit on it, is it worth a shot?
Yes, absolutely. I would think so. I would think, unless you're thinking there's a 2% chance I'll get injured, and then you say that's double the chances. I don't know. Yeah. My question is though, we think when you say the name Mo around running track and field, we still think of Mo Farah, and he's got a few gold medals on top of Mo Ahmed. But does Mo Ahmed need to do his own version of the Mobot? He's now the coolest Mo. He's the coolest Mo in town right now. He's Just
Well,
kidding.
if we're talking about crazy plans to happen at the next two Portland inter squad meets,
Mhm.
Houlihan just ran 14:23 and the world record's 14:11.
Right. That I don't. Even though the difference between those times isn't that different as far as who. Yeah, she's got 12 seconds and Ahmed's got 10. Maybe she's
Yeah.
actually closer to it than he is. I don't know. It probably won't happen, but God, you could sell a lot of Shelby Houlihan jerseys if you if she went for that. And it's the same with Mohamed. Well,
Yeah.
wait, just kidding. That's not a thing. But I
Uh,
don't know. It'd be fun.
yeah, I think Shelby would be, because you could have smoothed out that pace too, right? I mean, you go through it in 69s
Yeah,
through the first.
69. Yeah,
I mean, and then that gets you to 3K, what, 7?
8.
Well, wait, hold on. 8 seconds faster. Sorry, my math's bad. Yeah, and then now it might be then tough to close the way she did,
Yeah,
because anytime you take something away somewhere, you have to add something back in another spot. But you look at going from 68 to 65 down to 61, even from the 65 to the 61, there's some time there, right?
yeah, yeah. Exactly. This is why we would be great track coaches, and I would instruct all my athletes from start to finish and how to handle the post race interviews. Beat a record, you immediately say Tirnesh Dababa's got nothing on me, and same with Mohamed. Bekele's got nothing on me. Nothing on me. It's just I'd just be such a great consultant for these athletes to show them how to handle themselves. No,
But sometimes you're joking, but sometimes I think people who are so close to it get lost in the minutia of year to year, and okay, now I ran this mark, I gotta shut it down. Maybe I'll do a
yeah,
1500 or 3K and get ready for 2021. It's like, hold on a second, you're
yeah.
close to
This
history now.
this
Let's
is the
back
peak of
up.
your career. Yeah, as far as time, this is the peak of your career. So yeah, it's if that's an interest, if you think you left any time out there, I think it's worth to chase again, and I think there's a good chance they will. This may be the extent of it. They may have already, pulled it as far as they can, stretched it as far as they can, and that's great. But and if that's the case, then it's already been a fantastic attempt, or a fantastic outcome. But
Yeah.
you get down, the worst thing I guess that could happen, maybe not the worst, but like for Ahmed, if he runs 12:45, and then you're like, I gotta go again, I like, and if Shelby runs 14:15, oh my god, I gotta try to, but yeah, it leaves you definitely wanting more. I mean, like I said, Portland Inter Squad 2, very clear that they were going to have a third movie after that. It's just there's too much anticipation around the sequel. So we got to go again.
Yeah. We got super excited about 14:48 and 13:11, and they're like, hold on, let me up the stakes a little bit with this one. Yeah, I guess he runs it again. He runs 12:44. You're at the blackjack table at 2 a.m. still trying to double
Yeah.
your money. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, again, why not? Why
Mm-hmm.
not?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
just this is what you train. This is what you work to do.
Well,
And I mean, realistically, what's more value? What are we going to remember somebody like this more for? Another bronze medal,
yeah. No,
or
the times, the
that
time.
yeah, or that
Yeah.
at this point it's times, right? It's if he runs 12:42 even, and he goes 12:47 and then 12:42, we're
Yeah.
gonna always remember. Oh man, that summer of 2020, he
Oh,
did something that, I mean, look at the all time men's list. It's nuts, right? Like look at who's uh up there and who's not up there, right? You got
mm-hmm.
Bekele, 37. You have Haile Gebrselassie, 39. Daniel Coleman, 39. Bekele, 40. Gebrselassie, 41. And then Barrega, 43.
Yeah.
I
A
mean,
couple of these
the
guys have been
entire.
pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're up there with Bekele, Gebrselassie, and Daniel Coleman, who famously had that crazy summer, I mean, other than Barrega, that's who's up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Gebrowitz there at 12:45. But
Some guy named
It,
Kipchoge at 12:46.
yeah, but Farah's not up there.
No,
Farah's not up there. Rupp's not up there. Bekele, I consider Bekele, even though he's still running, as a 5,000 runner, I consider him the previous era, right? The era before this.
of course. Yeah.
So it's a chance to rule over the era in terms of time. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's incredible he's in his position. So you want to be, oh, wow, that's so awesome that you're even in this position. But then you think, okay, well, can you get greedy? Can you ask for more?
It's true. And now that we've talked fully about this, we obviously have to get down to the nitty gritty of what spikes they were wearing. I know you've been a heavy critic of the fact that they wore actual shoes during this race, which is cheating.
Can you trust anything? Can you trust anything? I saw that Ahmed's were called the Dragonflies, which I did not
which is cool.
know about.
Yeah.
It's a cool name. It's a cool name because I got to admit, Vaporfly, not a great name. I'm just going to go out and say it. Dragonfly. Dragon is a better word to put in front of fly than vapor is.
Mm-hmm.
Just going to go out on a limb and say that. Even Alpha Fly was a little much, 4%, next percent. All that stuff was getting a little complicated. Name it after a cool animal. Dragonfly.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go.
Yeah, that's an insect.
With Shelby, though, because there's stuff still floats around. So let me repeat this for everybody who's concerned about Shelby Houlihan's spikes. She's using her old spikes. She's always used her old spikes. She says she's going to continue to use her old spikes. She said it last year in Doha. People asked her questions about it. People looked at the spikes who knew a lot about spikes and said, hey, those are the old spikes. Those aren't the new spikes. So please, can we stop talking about Shelby Houlihan's spikes? That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, and I did see that. And I would think that, of course, if we're not clear, we're talking about the fact of World Athletics rules on spikes, and they had to be out for a certain amount of time. And so there was some question about the new Nike spikes, that had the carbon fiber positioned in a certain, they had to be, you know what I'm saying? They had to be out for a certain amount of time, and people are questioning if they have, and yada, 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 yada. I would think that Nike and the Bowerman Track Club had this all figured out beforehand. I wouldn't think they went into this with and you mentioned Shelby's spikes were old spikes and Meds were a different model. I would think they have all this figured out. So it seems like it's a waste of time, waste of air to be discussing this. I literally put no stock in this. I know some people want to generate controversy, and I understand to an extent the road racing shoes, but when it comes to the spikes, for me, and I'm not a scientific expert, I just do not understand putting so much into this when we've already had a hard enough year. And I truthfully, why are you trying to take the wind out of the sails of this? They're not in roller skates. I truthfully, I don't understand it.
They look like spikes too. That's the thing.
Yeah.
If you're going to complain about the road racing shoes, you're like, man, he's on platforms, and that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. They don't look like old running shoes. These still look like spikes, and there's been shanks in spikes for a while now. And someone who's a spikeologist can give you all the details there. But the gains that those things supposedly provided, I think, are inflated. I know they were all over in Doha, right? All over Laura Muir about the super secret spikes. The British media was, because they didn't have a story that day. Dean Asher Smith or KJT maybe wasn't running or something. So they were all over that for 15 minutes. But yeah, it's ridiculous. And if you're a hater of shoe takes, as I am, Shelby doing well just throws cold water on a lot of that. In the same way that at the marathon trials, yes, on the men's side, all three of the guys were wearing the super shoes, but I mean, Rupp and Riley were supposed to be in the mix. Abdi, came out of nowhere, but he always does. But on the women's side, you had Alfine Tuliamuk and Molly Seidel going one and two, despite the presence of all the super shoes out there. So I don't like you, Lincoln, for even bringing this up.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're banned.
Got it. Well, I was being facetious, of course, but I enjoyed I was I just enjoy that some people are just intent on never being able to enjoy life at any
Here's the thing that people
at
don't
any
understand.
stage. Mm-hmm.
Let me explain to you, and you know this already, so I'm not really explaining to you. But what people don't understand is actually how few attempts really fast people have at running really fast, because it does seem
Mm-hmm.
counterintuitive, right? But you take someone like Mohamed, who doesn't race a lot, as is, because most of the Bowerman people don't race. I mean, when I say doesn't race a lot, doesn't race like a college athlete, because most pro athletes don't, right?
Of course.
How many truly fast 5,000s has he been in? How many fast 5,000s has he been in where he is the focal point of that race? How many 5,000s has he been in where the pace is set up for right? Exactly. Shelby, how many fast 5,000s has Shelby really run? And you can even
Two.
extend this down, right? You can even extend this down to the sprints, right? When someone who's run the 100 their whole life and really hasn't ever gotten in a fast 200, or someone who's run the 400 a lot and hasn't gotten in a fast 200, whatever, finally gets that chance after 2 years of focusing on another event and maybe getting their time. Oh, now they're a 995 100-meter runner, right? Or on the women's side, maybe they're 49.4 in the 400. Well, then of course they're going to run a fast 200, right? It just,
Mm-hmm.
science tells us that. There could be nothing sinister at all about it. But a lot of people from the outside, they just look at a time progression chart devoid of all context, and then they're like, "Oh wow, man, this doesn't make any sense." Matt Centrowitz, what do you win the Olympics in Rio? 340 something, and then he ran what? Oh man, there must be something fishy. And I think people do not understand, or they're willfully ignorant about the context around certain performances. Doesn't mean everything's above board 100% of the time. Obviously, in this sport, there's been issues, but you have to dig a little deeper and find the context. So Shelby dropping 10 seconds off of a time from 2 years ago when she's way faster, with the benefit of having faster teammates around her and not having to travel, and that equates to 10 seconds. That makes a lot of sense to me. That makes a
Mm-hmm.
lot of sense that she would be able to do that. And I think it makes sense to a lot of people, without having to dig any deeper and look at patents of shoes.
I wholeheartedly agree. I don't know. I don't know the status of if the shoes have been released. I am not interested in digging into which I'm not calling every Nike outlet to ask if that when they've released a shoe. It's just, there's a difference between being aloof to so-called, skirting the rules, and then being a crazy person who looks at every performance now. If there's not a doping suspicion around an athlete, well, then it's got to be the shoes, right? Or it's got to be something else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think there are some areas where it's just like, I see this and it's okay to believe this. Not everything needs to be a conspiracy, which obviously is a wider problem in the entire world right now, much bigger issues. But I just get annoyed when you see those comments, and simply because it takes away from the performance. But it's like, well, why are you even a fan? I mean, why do you even call yourself a fan? Like I said, there's a big thick line between being naive and accepting every performance as pure and 100%, and then getting fooled whenever those athletes come back and test positive. But treating the shoe thing as the exact same type of thing is incorrect and a wrong way to go about being a fan.
Yeah, I saw Shelby was responding to people on this,
Oh, really?
and she said, well, "Yeah, on Twitter, can another logical answer be that I work my ass off and I haven't been in a fast-paced 5K in 2 years?"
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's well
And
put.
then the person responded, and then she said, "I'm sorry that you really think hard work, dedication, teamwork, and consistency is the most unlikely answer. Also, I don't wear the shoes. I wear the 2012, 2013 Nike Zoom Victory 2s."
Wow, I didn't know her spikes were that old.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know a ton about spikes, but I remember standing next to her doing interviews in Doha, and people were asking about the spikes, and then she said, "No, these are the victories." And then
Mm-hmm.
someone said, "Well, why don't you in the other ones?" And she gave the answer about how she liked them more.
And we've talked to other athletes. I mean, Matt Centrowitz didn't, he's worn the new spikes, but I think went back to old ones in the postseason after USA's in 2019. So it's not that everyone, these new spikes that are supposedly superior, everyone's not putting them on. So even the people who are wearing them on a day-to-day basis aren't viewing them as some tremendous competitive advantage. So
Yeah, well,
I
and
think it's a moot point.
the problem is you look at an improvement, you look at a PR, right, and then you work backwards to try to figure out why that's not a legitimate performance, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you don't look at the things that I mentioned before about how it's been that long since they've run it in a fast. You don't look at rabbits. You don't look at any sort of other context. You don't look at other PRs that she ran. She ran 354 in a 1500 last year. You can look up on a pace chart. 354 indicates a pretty dang fast 5,000. You can
Yeah.
look up what she ran. You can look up what she ran indoors in a 3K, right? And that equated, we said, to 1428, 1429. It's not a large leap to get to what she did on
Mm-hmm.
on Friday night. So, again, you have choices of how you want to perceive the facts, but I think anybody who's really been around running is always going to be a little bit skeptical. But people are always know when there's a PR that's sort of out of whack, that's like due to be pushed in line, right? And or you can look at a bunch of other reasons why someone ran fast, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
how many, and this wasn't the case in this inner squad two, but in inner squad one, and in the prequel, the Woody Kincaid 5,000 meter hour of joy, they had rabbits so late in the race. Like when else are they going to get
Mm-hmm.
that, right? So
Never.
there's
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
other benefits there. I want to ask you
Yep.
one more thing before we go. Of
Mm-hmm.
these four, well, actually, no, I want to ask you a different question. Who's going to be the star of Inner Squad 3? Because so far, we've had
Mm-hmm.
you've had Ahmed,
Mm-hmm.
Houlihan, Schweizer. I guess the longest start, he went under 13. And then at first meet, you had Fisher, you had McGordy, and then you, of course, had Elise Cranny with the 14:48, and then Frericks running really fast. Who's going to be, we don't know any of the events, but whose turn is
No.
it next to drop something crazy?
Well, we haven't seen Matt Centrowitz, and I know he's not a time trialer. That's not his thing. So I'm tempted to think of him making an appearance, but the fact that he hasn't shown up at all concerns me. Maybe he's just, opting, to use the sports term, opting out of these time trial events just because he's like, I'm too old for that. I've got an Olympic gold medal. I'll just wait until the races are real. So I'm actually going to go Josh Thompson, and I know we saw him in the first edition, and I think he lost a 1500. But when you run 334 indoors in a 1500, you think this guy can probably run closer to 331, 332 outdoors. So I've got to think that there's going to be a fast men's 1500 setup. That's the next thing. And the first one was underwhelming with a 339, but I'm going to go with Thompson for a really, really good 1500 if it can be paced right, which there is some concern, right? Because if you got to bring somebody through 800 and whatever, 155, 156, not that no
Yeah,
one
it's
can
hard.
do that, but it's tough to do. And so that it's a little bit tough, but you look at it, it's like, well, what else can they do? Because you're right with the steeplechase, that'd be fun to do a fast one, but who are you going to have
Yeah.
pace? You have to go over barriers. So I look at the men's 1500, and I think Thompson, who was just running so well from late 2019 through the indoor season, I look at him as somebody who can really go fast. What about for you?
I was going to say they'll try to figure out the steeple somehow. Maybe not on the men's
Mm-hmm.
side, but for the women, I mean, Frericks running 14:51 is right. 14:51. Is that what you ran 2 weeks ago?
50.
I mean,
I
that's
think 50.
50.
Yeah.
Sorry. My apologies, Courtney. Didn't want to short you a second there. Look, PRs matter.
Mm-hmm.
I got to figure out a way somehow for that to happen. I'm not sure how it would be. I mean, maybe her and Quigley could. Maybe there's someone on the Bowerman Track Club elite group
Oh
that could
my.
get them through that could get them through like 2 or 3 laps or something, and then they trade off the lead. I mean, steeplers are used to going at it alone. When you brought up that 1500, it made me think about something because Mohamed was in that 1500, that 339. What's that equate
Mm-hmm.
to? About a 356 mile. And what did he
Yeah.
close in this
He
5,000?
closed pretty. He needs a solid running start, and then he's one of the better 1500 meter runners in the world. It's
he
ridiculous.
basically
Yeah.
He basically closed in the exact same
Yeah.
time that he ran.
Yeah, he could be a good pacer for a 1500. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean he's good at everything else. So why stop there?
Mm-hmm.
I was also interested to know of these four that start in this one, who do you think's most likely to up the ante later on in the summer in the last 2 months?
Well, just Houlihan. I mean, it's as far as somebody who is clearly super fit. I mean, Momed's clearly super fit. So too is Karissa Schweizer. But Houlihan has another distance she's a world class at. And I don't think you can run faster than 354 in a time trial, like in this type of setting. One, because you don't have Safan Hassan blowing the doors off you're not running for your life like they were in Doha, but it just feels like Shelby's really eager to go and clearly in the best shape of her life. And, she likes to race, and, USA, she runs 2 distances. Like, she's not somebody that she's, I don't want to say not cautious, but she's not as methodical, it seems like, with her racing as maybe Mohamed is, who does race a little bit less than her. So I could see her, like you said, if they want to do that 3K, or if they're just like, whatever, let's get Kate Grace out there to take her through 800 and let's see how fast she can go in a 15. I think it'll be Houlihan continuing to star. And I think Mohamed, although I'd love to see him go for the world record, I think he would happily go back to his pacing duties and say, I'll do that. And then let other people take the center stage. I think we're going to see more Houlihan, and it will not completely shock me if she lowers her 1500 meter record. Although obviously I will say that will be much, much tougher.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm not going to be surprised by anything anymore, but I would be surprised if she does that. Yeah. That's like a whole nother lever. I'm looking last year. You know how many 5,000s Ahmed ran last year before Doha?
2
Ones
or 3?
That he finished. 2. Yeah. And then he did the pacing. He ran a 12:58 in Rome and then a 13:54 at the Canadian Championships. In 2017, he ran 3 before the World Championships and then 1 after. So not an insignificant amount. And then 2016, before he got 4th in the Olympics, he ran the Canadian Championships, then the Olympics, and then Zurich. So he's basically, he's racing 4 or 5. I wonder the 10,000. I mean, he ran 26:59. I
thought about that. He could obviously go way faster.
What do you think about a Lopez Lemong 10K attempt?
I don't think he's fit
I'm
enough
just throwing
to go
things out
26. Now. Yeah. I mean, you could get those guys back in the 10,000, right? I don't think my opinion is he's not. Certainly, could Ahmed run faster than 12:44? Yes, he's not American, obviously. But when you talk about Lopez Lemong trying to go for the American record, I don't think he could run 26, or is it 26:44? Yeah, 26:44. But it would be cool. I'm just
naming records now. What about the
What about the
4x8? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, and then the Blue Jean Mile. Are these guys going to consider that? Can Mohamed break 13:10 in blue jeans?
You gotta keep upping the ante. That's the thing. Like, how do you top this? Right? I mean,
it's the 10,000. That's obviously the other distance. Do you get the guys together for that? Do they want to chase a 10,000? I mean, he's already broken 27. That's kind of the marker. How much faster can you go? It's tough for Ahmed because he's got both the records, the Canadian record. Like, the Canadian records are just his PRs. So it's like, what's the incentive here? I'm not going to get down to Calais. Yeah,
North American records.
Well, you do want to own the continent. I mean, you get a country, and you're like, damn it, if I'm not going to take the entire continent.
It's a good place to leave it there. Thank you, Alon, for producing. Thanks, everybody, for listening. FloTrack Podcast at gmail.com. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.